It's still the Midday Dialogue on 99.3 Nigeria Info. So with Fela and Denike, we have been waiting for our guests, and our guests have just stepped into the studio. Hello, sir. Yes, any which one of your microphones.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Okay, so my guest on the show right now is, yes, of course. My guest on the show is Jeffrey Hawkins, the Consul-General of the United States to Nigeria. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
So many ropes. I apologize for that, but it will get sorted. So, I hear that your stay in the country is gradually winding up.
I know, I can't believe it. I've been in Nigeria for 3 years and it's time to move on now.
Oh, goodness. And in 3 years, I was at the Enough is Enough event that you were on the panel, and there were a few things that you spoke about. We'll touch base on those things. But in 3 years, can you sum up your stay in Nigeria? Say, let me give you 3 sentences. So you have 3 sentences to sum it up.
Wow, I think that's probably the hardest challenge I've been given the entire time I'm here. Let me just try with 3 words or something. Amazing, challenging, fun.
Amazing, challenging, and fun. Let's start with the fun part.
Yeah.
The jollof rice.
Yeah, there's that. As walking up here, I saw that there's a picture of Fela on the wall, and I was thinking about being at the shrine, and that's fun, listening to that kind of music, and all the wonderful experiences I've had from going to visit traditional rulers and having all the wonderful outfits and the music and the drums and all those things, to the fun of dealing with really serious big level players. Some of the most successful Nigerians are more successful than anybody I've ever met in any other country I've ever served in, and there's so much going on here, and of course you have a wonderful media, and
we do.
You have great radio presenters. That's my favorite thing about Nigeria, actually.
Okay. And I was reading through your resume, and you have done a lot. You have been to so many countries and loads of continents, and I'm thinking to myself, what next? Are you going to take a break now? Are you going to go on vacation, say 2 weeks, and then work starts? What next for you?
Well, one of the really nice things that the United States Congress did for the U.S. Foreign Service is require that we take vacation in the United States between postings. So they're afraid that American diplomats will go off and become too Nigerian and not want to come home. So they require us to come home. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to start my next assignment in another country in Africa.
In Africa?
Yes.
Oh, so you're staying based in Africa?
Of course.
Oh, and in comparison to Africa, when was the first time you had a job, a posting to an African country?
It was my first assignment about 20 years ago in Ivory Coast.
And from back then up until now, the changes and the Africa that we see now, and your hopeful projection for Africa as a whole.
Well, let's talk about Nigeria first, and the changes we've seen there. Since '99, the sort of democratic process that Nigeria's gone through has been really, not without bumps in the road and not without some concerns and problems. But you guys have made so much progress in this last election we had, which I was really honored to observe and watch and support as a friend of Nigeria, and so clearly demonstrated the way in which a democratic culture is taken hold in this country, and that's one of the issues around the question that folks have struggled with, and we're seeing countries like Burundi, for example, where those issues are still alive, and I'm really proud of the fact that Nigeria has kind of put those issues to rest and has moved on and moved forward. And then on the economic side as well, we're having some hard times. Oil prices are low. But there really is a long-term sense in the United States that Nigeria, and Africa as a whole, but particularly Nigeria, is a market that American companies want to play in. So, when I was in Ivory Coast, we weren't seeing so many of these U.S. companies come through here. I've actually, this morning, was just coming from a meeting of the American Business Council, and there's all these big names sitting around the table, and they all want to be here, and they all want to be a part of this country, and that's great. So, the Nigeria, I think, in many respects, is reflecting some of the positive changes around the continent.
I remember that at the event, one thing you said that struck a chord with me or resonated with me was the fact that as a people, we need more accountability to our government officials and all that. And, you know, being an American citizen, we see that play out of, you know, a lot of times. But how much and how important, again, I was at the event and I know I can play back everything you said, but for people listening now, I want you to tell us the importance of accountability to our elected public official holders and what it holds for our democracy as a whole.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a crucial question, and it's one, frankly, that Americans don't really have many lessons to teach Nigerians because it's clear, crystal clear, and it has been throughout the 3 years that I've been here, that Nigerians are keenly aware of issues of transparency and corruption and all the rest, and it is obvious that Nigerians yearn for a government that's responsive to the will of the people and a government that's accountable to the people. And I think in many respects, this last election that we just had revolved around a lot of those issues. And part of the issue is not just having honest politicians, because there's corrupt politicians and dishonest politicians in every country. It's having that accountability if a politician strays. And I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but something, you know, we prosecute something over 1,000 public officials in the United States every year for corruption. So it's not as if that doesn't happen in the U.S. It's not as if we don't have high-profile cases, but we do go after criminals that are in office. And that's a really important component of that accountability that we're talking about. And that's clearly part of the mix now. And we've got an inauguration happening day after tomorrow, and we'll see what happens after that.
I'm not going to let you go without talking about food. What you would miss the most, you know, you stay here.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm going to sound a little like Joe Sixpack, but for me, you know, a star beer and a plate full of suya is the way to go.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're going to miss that, obviously. If you're just listening, my guess is should I call you former, or you're still in office?
For the next month or so, I'm still in office.
Okay, so he's the Consul-General. He's taking a tour around, and he's wrapping up his stay in Nigeria. He's been here for 3 years. His name is Jeffrey Hawkins. I'm sure someone is listening and watching, American Embassy. I hope they will give me visa the next time I apply. And I'm sure you get that question all the time and at every opportunity that you get. In 1-2 sentences, why do you think that we think it's so difficult to get an American visa, and in comparison to the realities of ground?
Well, I mean, one of the interesting things and the change that I've seen over the 3 years is I did get the visa questions all the time when I arrived. I get them much less now, and part of the reason for that is there was a really long, frankly, an unacceptably long wait time for appointments, and that's fixed. Pretty much now you can get an appointment anytime you want to come see a visa officer. And the fact of the matter is we approve far more visas than we deny. So, you know, if somebody has a legitimate reason to travel to the United States, their chances are very good that they're going to get a visa. And we do refuse people sometimes, and it's not personal. Unfortunately, the law requires us to assume that people are ineligible unless they can prove otherwise. And our officers are busy, and we have a lot of people, thankfully, that want to go to the U.S., and so they don't have a lot of time to get into the particulars. And so sometimes people don't always get granted a visa on the first time, but legitimate travelers will ultimately go to the U.S., and we're working really hard to facilitate that.
Yay. His name is Jeffrey Hawkins. Thank you so much for dropping by.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think this is the second or third audience I've had with you directly or indirectly, and I know you're an intelligent person, and here's wishing you the very best in your next assignments in Africa. And who knows, we just may be meeting up somewhere in Africa.
Well, the one thing I do want to say as I leave, we like it here so much that my family's going to stay in Nigeria.
Oh my goodness! I was going to ask.
So I'll be back.
Yay! I was going to ask, because I know that with diplomats and people like yourself, the family, the factor that you have to keep moving around and around. Oh, that's good news that your family's here.
Yep.
So we will be seeing you sometime soon.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for dropping by. Midday Dialogue continues here on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Thank you.